She did it with a smile, like it was harmless. Like humiliating me was just part of the night. Stay close. This gets ugly in the details. We were at her friend's engagement dinner, the kind of place where the chairs are heavy and the water glasses never sit empty. Elise loved nights like that. She loved the feeling of being seen. She had her hair done, dress fitted, nails perfect, and she kept touching my arm like I was an accessory she'd chosen for the event. I was wearing the same watch I've worn for years. It still worked. It still kept time. That's kind of the point of my life, honestly. Halfway through the appetizers, her friend's fiancé started talking about money like it was sports. Promotions, bonuses, new investments. People laughed at the right moments and nodded like they understood. Then he turned to me. "What about you, man? What do you do?" "I'm an operations supervisor," I said. "Distribution. I keep systems running." He nodded politely, already losing interest. Elise leaned forward and said, "He's very stable." The way she said stable made it sound like a diagnosis. Someone asked about our plans next. Wedding talk, house talk, the kind of talk that makes people glance at your hands for rings. Elise lifted her glass and said, "We're looking at condos." I looked at her. That wasn't a conversation we'd finished having. She kept smiling. "Right, babe?" I didn't correct her in front of the table. I just said, "We've been looking." Her friend squealed and started asking questions. Neighborhoods, views, amenities. Elise got animated, describing a building we'd toured that morning. "The gym was insane," she said. "And the rooftop, oh my God, you could host parties up there." I remembered the price tag, the HOA, the parking fee, the monthly payment that would squeeze my budget until it squealed. I said gently, "It's a lot of money." Elise's smile didn't drop, but her eyes sharpened. She reached under the table and squeezed my thigh hard, like a warning. Then she did what she always did when she wanted to win a moment. She laughed, turned to the table and said, "Daniel is allergic to spending." A couple people chuckled. I stayed still. "I'm not allergic," I said. "I'm just careful." Elise tilted her head like I'd proven her point. "Careful," she repeated. "That's one word for it." Then, like she couldn't resist, she leaned toward her friend and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "He still talks about emergency funds like we're living through the Great Depression." More laughter. Someone joked about mattresses and cash. I didn't laugh. I just took a sip of water and let the room settle. Elise noticed. She always noticed when I didn't play along. "What?" she asked. Sweet voice, sharp eyes. I kept my tone even. "I don't love being joked about like that." She waved a hand. "Oh my God, relax, I'm kidding." But she wasn't kidding. She was testing the room, seeing who would join her. Her friend's fiancé smiled at me the way men smile at men they think are beneath them. "Man," he said, "you gotta live a little." Elise took that opening and ran. "Exactly," she said. "He's so predictable. He's like, clock in, clock out, go to bed early, repeat. Predictable." She kept going. "Sometimes I feel like I'm dating an accountant." I blinked once. I'm not an accountant. But I know what she meant. She meant boring. I set my fork down carefully. "Elise," she smiled wider. "What? It's true. You're comfortable. Too comfortable." There it was. Comfortable, like it was a character flaw. Then she did the part that actually hurt. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, and turned it slightly so I could see a picture. Some guy in sunglasses on a boat, champagne bottle in hand, city skyline behind him. "Look," she said, "Rylan just bought a place in Miami." I recognized him. Rylan was the guy she ran into twice a month, the one she followed closely, the one she'd started mentioning with that little spark in her voice. He called himself a founder, sometimes a trader, sometimes both. His life online was always sunshine and speed and expensive views. "He's my friend," Elise said quickly, like that covered it. "But he gets it. He takes risks." She turned back to the table. "Rylan says if you're still on a salary at 30, you're choosing small." I could feel heat in my chest, but I didn't let it rise into my face. I said quietly, "Rylan also rents his lifestyle." Elise laughed like I'd just said something adorable. "There you go again," she said. "Always trying to drag things down. Always trying to make big dreams sound stupid." I kept my voice level. Big dreams aren't stupid. Unpaid bills are. Her friend's fiancé whistled like I'd made it awkward. Elise leaned closer to me, smile still on, and whispered, "Don't embarrass me." I looked at her. Really looked. Then she said the thing that turned the whole night into a line in my memory. "You can't provide," she said, still smiling. "Not the way I need. Provide. Like my steady paycheck, my benefits, my planning, like none of it counted." I let the silence sit for a beat. A few people shifted in their seats. Someone suddenly got very interested in their drink. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just asked, calm, "Did you mean to say that in front of everyone?" Elise blinked. "I mean, it's true." I nodded once. "Okay." Her smile faltered. "Okay, what?" I stood up slowly, napkin on the table. "Okay," I said. "You don't get to humiliate me and call it honesty." Her friend gasped like I was being dramatic. Elise's voice sharpened. "Sit down." I stayed standing. "No." She hissed, "You're overreacting." I looked at her, steady. "No," I said. "You're revealing." Her eyes narrowed. "You're so boring," she snapped, dropping the smile now. "So average, so predictable. I'm tired of feeling like I'm dating a routine." Routine. Like my stability was something she could get sick of. Then she delivered the detonating phrase, clean and cruel, right there in front of the table. "You're not a provider," she said. "You're a spreadsheet." That one stuck, because it wasn't just an insult. It was how she saw me. I nodded once. "Then you should go find what you're looking for." Elise stared, shocked. "Are you breaking up with me right now?" "I'm choosing dignity," I said. "Call it whatever you want." She scoffed. "Fine," she said loudly, for the room. "Rylan would never act like this. He knows how to keep up." I didn't flinch. "Go keep up," I said. Then I walked out, calm enough that my hands didn't shake until I got to my car. In the parking lot, the air was cold. My phone buzzed. Elise, of course. I didn't answer. I drove home, not fast, not dramatic, just steady, like I always am. When I got back to my apartment, it was quiet in a way I hadn't noticed in months. I put my keys where I always put them. I poured a glass of water. I sat at my table, and I opened my laptop. Not to post, not to vent, not to write a long message I'd regret. I opened the spreadsheet. Rent, utilities, groceries, retirement, insurance, emergency fund. The numbers that had been holding my life together while Elise called it boring. I made one simple change. I removed her. Her portion of dinners, her subscriptions, her impulse trips, the random "we deserve it" purchases that never came with a plan. The surplus jumped in a way that felt almost rude. I stared at it for a long moment and realized something that didn't feel like victory, just clarity. She wasn't asking me to provide. She was asking me to perform. And I wasn't built for performance. I'm built for real life. Over the next month, my life kept working. My job stayed steady. My bills stayed paid. My insurance stayed active. I slept well. I ate normal meals. I went to the gym at the same time every week. I didn't spiral. Elise, from what I heard, did the opposite. She started showing up in Rylan stories, rooftop bars, weekend flights, a convertible with the top down, captions about choosing more. I didn't watch twice. I didn't comment. I didn't need to. Then the crisis hit, not as gossip, not as a rumor, as a call. It was a Wednesday night, about 2 months after that dinner. I was folding laundry when my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost ignored it. I don't pick up unknown numbers unless I'm expecting something, but I answered anyway. Hello. I heard breathing, fast, shaky, then Elise's voice, smaller than I remembered. Daniel? My body went still. What happened? She tried to speak and couldn't get the words out clean. I'm at Mercy, she whispered. Please. Hospital. I sat down slowly. Are you hurt? She inhaled sharply. I can't breathe right. My throat, I think it's swelling. They said it might be an allergic reaction. My mind went calm in that automatic way it does in emergencies. Okay, I said. Are you in the ER? Yes, she said, voice thin. They gave me something, but they're asking questions and I don't have my card. What card? I asked, though I already felt the answer. My insurance, she whispered. I don't have it. I closed my eyes once. Elise, I said. Do you have any coverage right now? Silence. Then, no. And there it was. The cost of the shiny life. Why? I asked, keeping my voice flat, practical. She sobbed once. I quit my job, she said. Rylan said it was holding me back. He said I could do content with him, travel, network. He said health insurance was a scam and we'd handle everything privately. Handle everything privately. Like hospitals accept vibes. I took a breath. Where is Rylan? She hesitated. He's not here. Where is he? I repeated, still calm. He left, she whispered. He said he had a meeting. He said he'd come back. He hasn't. I didn't insult her. I didn't say, of course he did. I didn't need to. She was already sitting inside the consequences. Okay, I said. Listen to me. You stay calm. You ask for the social worker and the billing office. Hospitals have processes. You don't sign anything you don't understand. You tell them you have no insurance and you need financial assistance options. Her voice shook. I'm scared. I know, I said. I'm coming. I drove to Mercy with my wallet in my pocket and my head clear. No adrenaline-fueled speeding, just steady. When I got to the ER, Elise was in a plastic chair, hoodie pulled tight, eyes glossy. She looked like someone who'd been trying to keep her image intact while her body was doing something it didn't care about. She saw me and her face crumpled. Thank you, she whispered. I nodded. Let's handle it. A nurse came out and asked questions Elise couldn't answer clearly because she was still coughing and shaky. I stepped in, not as her savior, just as a calm brain in a room full of panic. I asked what medication she'd been given. I asked what tests they were running. I asked if she was stable. I asked what the next steps were. Then the billing question came, because it always does. Insurance? The clerk asked. Elise's eyes darted to me, terrified. I said, She doesn't have any active coverage. What's the immediate requirement tonight?" The clerk slid a paper across the counter with a number printed on it. Deposit for certain tests, initial ER charges, something to start the process. Elise stared at it like it was a death sentence. "I don't have that," she whispered. I didn't flinch. I pulled out my HSA card, the one I'd been contributing to quietly, the one Elise used to tease me about, like planning for health was pessimism. I paid the deposit, not as revenge, not as a romantic gesture, as an adult response to an emergency. That's what stability is in practice, not a theory, not a personality, actual capacity when something goes wrong. We sat under fluorescent lights while they monitored her. Her breathing slowly eased. The swelling went down. The doctor explained what likely caused it and what she needed. Follow-up care, an EpiPen prescription, possibly allergy testing. Elise nodded like she was underwater. Then she whispered, "I can't even pay for the prescription." I kept my voice even. "We'll ask about assistance," I said, "and you're going to get coverage again." She looked at me, eyes red. "I called you a spreadsheet." I didn't respond right away. I let her sit with it. "I called you average," she continued. "Predictable, boring, too comfortable." I nodded once. "You did." Her voice broke. "And now I'm here without insurance, and the only person who showed up is the man I humiliated. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't need to. The ER chair said it." Elise wiped her face. "Rylan said you were small," she whispered. "He said you didn't know how to live." I looked at her, calm. "Where is he now?" I asked. She didn't answer, because she didn't have to. We both knew. A couple hours later, she was stable enough to leave. I walked her out, helped her into my car, and drove her to her apartment, the one she'd moved into after leaving mine, paid for with a new chapter and a shaky income. The building's lobby was dark. The elevator was out of order. She climbed the stairs slowly, still weak. At her door, she turned to me and finally said what regret always tries to say, like it can rewind time. "I miss you," she whispered. "I miss being safe." I held her gaze. "I'm glad you're okay," I said. "But we're not getting back together." Her face tightened. "Why?" she asked, like she couldn't understand how care and reconciliation weren't the same thing. "Because you didn't want me when I was steady," I said. "You want me now because you're scared." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I was wrong." "You were wrong," I agreed. "And you learned late." She swallowed hard. Can you help me figure out what to do?" I nodded. "I'll tell you what to do," I said. "You get a job again, any steady job. You enroll in insurance. You rebuild your savings. You stop confusing instability with ambition." She flinched like the plan offended her, because it wasn't glamorous. But she nodded, because the glamorous life doesn't hand you an EpiPen when your throat closes. A week later, she paid me back for the deposit in small chunks, ashamed, but trying. She sent a message once. I enrolled in coverage. Another time, I got an interview. I replied politely, brief, no warmth that would blur the boundary. Months after that, I saw her at a grocery store. She looked tired, but grounded. No flashy energy. Just a person carrying a basket, living a real life. She saw me too. She stopped, like her body remembered the old version of her that would have tried to charm her way back. Instead, she just said, "You were never small." I nodded. "Take care of yourself, Elise." She held my eyes for a second longer, then walked away. I went home. I cooked dinner. I cleaned the kitchen while the pan was still warm. I opened my spreadsheet, not because I'm obsessed, but because it keeps me honest. Stability isn't weakness. Discipline isn't fear. Predictability is protection. If this story hit home, subscribe to hear more real stories like this one. There are more stories of quiet strength here. Stick around.